Jesus Christ is running for president in 2020. What are some of the highlights of his campaign? No more unsafe drinking water. All reservoirs are now filled with clean, safe-to-drink wine and everyone can be drunk all the time. Fundraising dinner for thousands of people. Food budget, $5 worth of loaves and fishes. Bible 2. Clearing out the corruption. In 32 AD he was flipping tables in the temple and beating the money changers with a cattle whip to clean his father's house. Can't wait to see what he does with the senators. The release of the missing 15 years of his life from the Bible. I don't think he'd run for president, but people would assume he was, and then murder him this year. I'm not sure Jesus would live long in America. Free healthcare. He'll personally heal you in a matter of seconds. Elect me, or I'm going to tell Dad. He turned the Great Lakes into wine and threw a lit-ass rally. The USA invades Israel and makes it the 51st state of America to fulfill the natural-born citizen clause for Jesus. Pledges extra money for education in skilled trades such as carpentry. Gives speech how he wants to run the country so well he ends up being bigger than the Beatles. Debates the death penalty and states how much he hates it. Makes it clear the fact it still exists in such a developed nation makes him really cross. Controversially chooses Judas to be his vice president as he's more trustworthy than any politician he's ever met. Mr. Christ. As you know, allegations have surfaced that you spend a great deal of time associating with a woman called Mary Magdalene. According to numerous reports, Ms. Magdalene is a known prostitute. Can you please explain why you feel this association is acceptable and how you plan to address some of these concerns with the American people? Quote, Karen, what is your view on the anti-vaccine movement? Quote, JC, it's utterly ridiculous and should be abandoned. Get your vaccinations. Karen, damn, the pro-vax movement has really gone far. They even got to you? Sad to be honest. He promises to feed the poor with a literal unlimited supply of fish. Republicans hate the fish tax on the wealthy, even though it doesn't exist. Democrats hate the rampant overfishing of the world's oceans, even though he's literally turning small piles of wheat into mountains of free fish. He loses in the primaries. All who oppose have the water in their bodies instantly turned to wine. https www.dailymotion.com/video/x1t4rsf. He gets called a filthy commie and told to go back to the Middle East. If Jesus was running for president in 2020, I'd drop everything and go to church. The only gun that needs to be banned is the nail gun. He'd have separate campaign platforms for each state. Massachusetts will officially appoint Tom Brady as one of his apostles. Texas, it is now canon that Jesus was nailed to a field goal post instead of a crucifix. West Virginia will make Take Me Home Country Roads an official hymn. Louisiana will hold a Last Supper for the entire state, which is just a large crawfish boil. Nevada offered to take the aliens in Area 51 back home. California will use his carpentry skills to build many houses, thus ending the housing crisis. Florida, he'll turn water into Four Loko laced with meth. Michigan will turn Flint water into Faygo. Trump constantly calling him Dirty Sandals Christ, and then claiming that his birth certificate was fake. He'd never make it past the primaries. He's a brown-skinned Middle Eastern socialist that favors open borders and dismisses the rich. He speaks directly to the people, not through interpreters or through the normal hierarchical channels. He refuses to run for office, but people keep writing his name on the balloting record numbers. He lashes out at the people in authority, but mainly his own political party for their hypocrisy. though they've studied the law their entire lives. He seems to think they know the least about the spirit of the laws that the country was founded upon. His followers go through great lengths to protect him as the media whips up in a frenzy to block his nomination, even to the extent that doing harm against the media. SMH. They've been on the campaign trail with him for years and years now. They should get it by now, but they still can't seem to grasp his true intent. Jesus gives in to the vitriol against, willingly offers himself to the media onslaught that was stoked into a frenzy behind the scenes by the party leaders, and suffers to death, all in the hope that all could be truly free. He turns the Capitol reflecting pool to wine after walking across it giving a speech. Losing the evangelical Christian vote to Trump. Help turn your water into wine. Being a non-USA born candidate plus from the Middle East would be even more groundbreaking than him being literally Jesus. He loses to Donald Trump. Highlights include Trump calling him an imposter and insulting him personally with third-grade humor, which makes the MAGA crowd go wild. Jesus reiterating what he said about rich assholes not entering heaven and virtually everyone in the audience using mental gymnastics to find a way in which Jesus somehow did not say the thing he said a second time. Thousands of years later, Jesus pointing to a child as an example of how naturally loving our neighbor comes to us, and then Trump making fun of both that child and Jesus, to more cheers from the sea of red hats, and Jesus getting crucified for a second time, this time by Christians who say they'd rather follow Donald off a moral cliff like lemmings than do what they know is the right thing and call his behavior childish, embarrassing, and unpresidential, and vote for anyone else. A Republican candidate with a history of alcohol abuse and ties to big liquor is going to mudsling at Jesus regarding his wine-making hobby. Another will accuse him of being too soft on prostitution. That candidate will later be found at a gay brothel getting domed by a bear who calls himself the chief. He does a fundraising dinner, does his fish and wine trick, but then the vegans and PETA come and protest him this year. Getting called an anti-Semite by the media for being against Israel's activities of late. He wants to destroy religious tax havens and openly speaks out against mega-churches, religions that are just in it for the money. A universal welfare system for those in need regardless of why they are in need. Legalize drugs, prostitution, lifestyles, police reform, based on the Bible, if you believe that stuff. He's an Israeli Muslim. Show us your birth certificate. He's not tough on terrorists with his turn the other cheek policy. True virtue is to abandon the twisted values of modern capitalism and to live the life of an ascetic, devoting yourself to charity and good works. No one votes for him because he's a socialist. America is a Christian nation and we ain't electing no godless commie. No way it gets that far without an American birth certificate. Lots of stones being thrown at each rally he holds when people realize Christ isn't a white man. His campaign slogan would probably be, "Not me, us." He'd fight for healthcare for all, housing for all, and get largely ignored in the media. Everyone calling him a terrorist and a socialist because he's a Middle Eastern man that wants to feed the poor and care for the sick. Love everyone equally and don't judge people. What about gay people? Quote, did I stutter? Quote, no, but did I stutter? Quote. Great, another politician running for office based solely on the name recognition of his father. Flint, Michigan will have undrinkable wine. The shocking degree by which he would lose. Biblically, Christ did not support vast wealth and/or personal gain. For this reason, he would not be able to fund a realistic campaign in most first world countries. Further, If this is the USA that he is hypothetically running in, he would never obtain support from lobby groups and therefore be unable to gain the support of other politicians. His proposed views, based on the Christian Bible, would be in direct contradiction with many state and federal laws. Face it, folks. Modern Christianity is massively dissimilar to the biblical representation of the belief structure. Megachurches are the perfect example of that, and the USA has a bunch of those. Who actually thinks that the biblical Jesus would be in support of a pastor having a personal fucking jet? Plot twist. He was deported last week. He gets called a libtard commie pussy when he tells folks to love their neighbor and to turn the other cheek. But it all comes to an end when he literally kicks the shit out of a corrupt lobbyist and a Republican gives him the death sentence. He tells several distinct versions of his story to different people and causes never-ending conflict. He is disavowed by both political parties for saying, "Forgive those that wrong you," and refusing to disavow the actions of both Antifa, the alt-right, and terrorists. There are multiple controversies surrounding his heritage and whether he has white privilege or if he's actually even from America. No one can agree what his skin color is. Multiple accusations from both sides about being a religious fanatic. Edit. A comma. Vote for him or you're going to hell. Instead of feeding the multitudes, he tells them to go out and get jobs so they can buy their own damn bread and fish. He's running as a Republican. The opposition throwing bagels at him. He'd be so much of a hippie even the Democrats wouldn't elect him, lol. I wonder if he has evolved on the whole slaves being obedient to their masters thing. Being condemned as a communist by Trump. Oh, hang on. Trump would actually have had to read the Bible to work that one out. He saves Flint, Michigan by turning their poisonous water into wine. His name is Bernie Sanders. Learn how to spell, for fuck's sake. Edit. I do actually think that Jesus would be a socialist. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's would prob be a heck of a tax program along with negating church non-profit status. A hell of a food program is your fish and loaves. Abolish alcohol restrictions. Water to wine. Judicial reform is your can't happen. He wasn't born here. Simple. No more hammers, nails, nail guns, and anything related to nails, including staplers. We gon' use duct tape and paper clips from now on. Y'all. I came back to life twice, bitch, don't test me. Jesus 2020. Turning Flint's water into wine.